Hi there, Ali. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good to see you.
And hello, everyone.
So, Alex, just some basic questions to start off with. First of all, what is an NIE and why do people need to get one when they move to Spain?
Basically, an NIE is a Spanish tax number, which you'll need to buy a car, buy a house, open a bank account, take out a mobile phone contract. And it's basically a tax number for foreigners. So the actual translation is, NIE is Número de Identificación de Extranjeros, so basically a tax identification number. And that's really the first step that most people moving to Spain will take when they arrive here or before, in that they'll obtain that NIE number.
Okay, so thinking about what steps are currently necessary to become a resident, could you just run through them with us?
Yeah, certainly. So basically, so we're active for clients, Ali, all across the country and the islands applying for residency. There's a lot of British people doing that at the moment before Brexit, as you can imagine. So we're busy in that respect. But basically, the key is you've got to prove that you've got sufficient income to live on, that you've got medical insurance in place. And the medical insurance, Ali, can be, if you've retired and you're over the age of 65, that's Form S1, which you can obtain from the UK authorities. If you're over the age of 65, but your partner's, say, younger, then they can become a beneficiary of that policy. And that will entitle you to healthcare here in Spain before the end of the year. If you're under the age of 65, then you can either by working or taking out private medical insurance, that will help you get that will help you access, well, basically that will help you obtain the residency. So basically proof of financial income, the healthcare, whether it's private medical cover, you're working, or Form S1. And then you need either a rental contract or you need to own a property. And basically what we're doing, Ali, there's a lot of people at the moment who are saying, I want to come over in the end of October, beginning November. We're getting all the paperwork together beforehand. So that's all ready. And as soon as they arrive, they sign their rental contract, they go down to the town hall, they register on the census at the town hall, which means that the town hall will be entitled to extra funds from central government because new people are added to the town hall. And then we submit the documentation online. So all the documents are submitted online for the residency process. And that's the first stage. And then typically we're getting the approval back between a week and 3 weeks later. And that's when the applicant and the applicants have to go to the police station. They have their thumb and fingerprints taken. They also take a photograph. They drop that off. And then we wait for the next appointment to pick up the car. And basically, you know, for British people who are interested in doing that, I'd recommend that they submit the application before the end of the year. Other nationalities don't have to worry about it so much. It's not so much of a rush. But basically, as of the 6th of July, what you'll see now is the new TIE card. So we've talked about NIE, now we're talking about TIE. And that's basically a foreigner's identification card. It's an identity card. And that basically means you can carry that around and you don't have to take your passport with you. So that's a very, very useful document.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things there about becoming a resident, but currently it's quite difficult to make your own appointment, isn't it? So currently the police station are recommending that you use a lawyer or a gestor. Is that right?
Yeah, so the process I talked you through there was basically mainly for new applicants, okay? For new applicants, and so we submit the applications online first. So that's kind of quite an easy, straightforward process for us to do. Someone who doesn't speak Spanish, I think that could be quite tough. And then basically people who live here already, who have got a residency card, I would suggest there's no obligation for them to renew that residency card with a new TIE card. Their existing residency card, so long as it's valid, will be sufficient for them to continue to live in Spain. I just double check the dates on that, and they've got either a permanent residency card or because the first residency card is usually issued for 5 years. So if anyone's listening in and they've got the residency card, just have a look at that residency card. And that is basically an appointment at the foreigner's office. Sorry, that's an appointment at the police station to exchange your current green residency card for a TIE card. But yeah, at the moment, Ali, you're right, it's quite difficult to get appointments. Working for someone in Barcelona recently, They issue 500 appointments every day. And I phoned up and said, look, we cannot get appointments. It's quite difficult to get one. They said, look, today we've issued 498 appointments. There's still 2 left to get. And it's like that. So basically, we're getting appointments, getting it onto the system every morning, 8, 9 o'clock, looking, just lining up to get the appointments. So the police authorities are aware that a lot of people are looking for appointments, and especially British people, but we just got to keep on, submit the documents online and then book the appointments afterwards.
Okay. And just to clarify one point, you mentioned there the census, which has a couple of other names, isn't it? Padron and Empadronamiento. So, yeah, what actually is that?
So basically when you live in a local area, you have to register on the town hall if you want to vote in European elections or local elections. Okay, from next year, obviously British people won't be able to vote in European elections, but they will be able to vote in local elections. So when I went and registered on the Padron, I filled out the form, and that basically authorised them to add me to the electoral roll. So you're on the electoral roll, and then that you're also basically then registered on the census for the town hall. So they know that, for example, Nerja has now got 22,101 people registered on the census, and that means they'll get extra monies from the central government because the population increases. And that document is actually, I bought a car last year, and when I bought the car, they've asked for that certificado de empadronamiento as well. So the car purchase, they asked for the NIA, the empadronamiento certificate, and a copy of my passport. So the NIA and the empadronamiento are both quite useful documents to have.
Yeah, okay. Helen, we'll come back to your question at the end of the session, so don't worry, we will answer your question. Just moving on to Ignacio. Ignacio is the Regional Sales Manager for Currencies Direct, which covers the Costa del Sol and Canary Islands. Hi, Ignacio.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone.
Just tell us a little bit about Currencies Direct, because you've been in Spain a long time, haven't you, as a company?
Well, we've been here in Spain 25 years. We have 16 offices, and we've been operating here for all these years. What we do is just transferring money in and out of Spain. And what we do is provide our clients with a very competitive rate. And that's what we do.
Okay, and you have a very special license, don't you, which other companies may not have?
Yeah, we've been here so many years. Obviously, we have a national agreement with the Spanish bank. We are the only currency provider with the Spanish license from the Banco de España. That's something that we've been working for many years, and we accelerate that as well because of Brexit. So we've been doing our homework.
Okay. So one of the most important questions I wanted to ask you, and one of the reasons why we're doing this call actually, is that we've been hearing in the press that UK banks are actually closing bank accounts for British nationals who have moved overseas. And obviously there's a lot of people living in Spain who rely on money that comes into their UK bank accounts, whether that's from pensions or from money from rentals or whatever it is. So what options do we have using Currencies Direct?
Well, we can definitely help to manage our clients' finances, and moving money in and out. But as I've been doing a bit of research on what is the situation right now, and as many things, the UK has so far failed to negotiate access to the European passporting scheme for banks and financial institutions. So what that means, for British banks, it's not that it's difficult, but it's a lot of admin work to do in getting license, But this is not for all the banks, and we need to understand that the banks they're going to do something to keep those accounts open, because it's not all accounts, it's not all type of accounts. For example, at least here in Spain, we have 360,000 officially registered clients, British people living in Spain. So I think there are a lot of interest on these banks to keep those accounts open. but it's a matter of to see if for them it's worth it to get the license or not. What we can do, we hold what we call currency wallets. With these currency wallets, what allows our clients is, to keep, facilitate to buy currency and hold it in a digital wallet until you need it. Yeah, you can have multiple wallets in multiple currencies, and you also have the option to move money between wallets. That's one option that we have, also for regular transfers as well. But when it comes to direct debits for pensions providers, they will need to organize a transfer, a third-party transfer to us. Is it possible? But documentation to support will be required. Then we have as well our online services, 24/7. And basically, you just registered with us and you can buy currency anytime. So that's what we can offer, but it all depends as well in individuals, which banks you're using in the UK, because we have things from Barclays. I don't want to go on with a lot of things, but for example, Santander says, if the Spanish banking it says that we have no current plans to close any of our retail or corporate accounts. That's some of the news that I read about Santander. Barclays, exactly the same. So I don't know. It's still in there. I think it's difficult to say about this, if they're going to close or not. But definitely a currency provider like Currencies Direct can help you. But we need to see what the requirements are. So I said, if there's anyone interested in find out more, is to speak with one of our experts.
Okay, yeah, great. So we'll be sharing links to all of the experts at the end of this Zoom call so that you can access and speak to any of the people that you've seen on this call. Just one final question, Ignacio. Obviously, it's much easier for people because generally we don't like filling out forms to use our banks to transfer money. So what's the benefit of actually using Currencies Direct rather than getting the bank to do the money transfer?
Well, it's a very easy process. You just register with us. It's very simple. You just need to register a one-page form with your contact details and your passport, utility bill to know where your address is, where you're resident, and that's it. So it's just you have someone to talk as well. If you want to speak with someone and ask for the rates, we can do a rate watch. If you are a property buyer, we have what we call you can buy the currency today and pay tomorrow. That's a forward contract. We have another service called limit orders. So we have different services that can help our clients depending on the circumstances. If it's a regular transfer, or if it's a property buyer or seller. If it's a property seller, here in Spain, you receive a banker's draft when you're going to the notary. Typically here, Spanish banks, they charge 0.6% just to deposit the banker's draft, and then they charge you another 0.6% to repatriate the funds. So already you're losing 1.2%. With us, it's free of charge. Okay. So you're saving on the international transfers, on depositing banker's draft, and you get a very competitive rate, better than the bank. In total, we always say to our clients, calculate that you can save between 3 to 5% to the total amount that you're transferring, comparing with the bank, if you compare with the banks.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, thank you. So going back to Alex from Mylor in Spain. Alex, if I decide I don't want to become a resident, how many days can I spend in Spain?
Okay, so basically, Ali, the tax year in Spain runs from January to December. So it's a calendar year, very, very useful. And you can spend, if you intend to spend more than 3 months in Spain, then you've got an obligation to become a resident. But if you spend more than 6 months, that's when you become a Spanish tax resident, and you would pay tax in Spain on worldwide assets and income the year after you arrive. So someone coming in January and spent 6 months in 2021 here in Spain, then in May and between April, May and June 2022, they'd submit a Spanish tax return for income on worldwide assets and income in 2021. And also in March, they'd have, if they had assets over the value of 50,000 euros, they'd have to declare that. For overseas assets of 50,000 euros, that has to be declared in March the year after you arrive. So basically, if someone doesn't want to become a Spanish tax resident, then they should basically ensure that they spend less than 183 days a year in Spain, but more than 3 months and you still become a resident. So we've got a kind of a bit of a grey area at the moment, Ali, in that if you're here for less than 6 months but more than 3 months, then you get your residency and your card will be valid for 5 years. And we don't know, obviously, for the British people, we don't know what will happen at the moment regarding Brexit, how much time you'll be able to spend in Spain next year. But at the moment, what the Spanish laws state that after 5 years, you have to renew your residency card, and you've got to prove that you've been that you haven't been absent for the country for a continuous period of 6 months. So that might be difficult for some people who don't want to be a Spanish tax resident to meet. So we might find that if they only spent, say, 182 days in a year for the next 5 years, that they could lose their residency come 5 years' time. But that's 5 years down the road. Next year, again, at the moment, we believe that it will be British people will be able to spend 90 days in a 180-day period. And we're waiting for clarification on that. The positive news coming out of the EU and UK talks was that talks have intensified, and I read in the papers the diplomatic language was lots of the outstanding issues were bridgeable. So that was kind of quite encouraging. And in my daily update from Currencies Direct today, I saw that the pound had gone up a bit. So that was positive news.
Yeah, brilliant. And just one more question in this section. So what is the criteria for actually getting residency? What do you have to do? Yeah. So
basically the financial criteria. So basically you have to have a kind of cocktail of financial income. So typically you need up to 9,000 euros in a bank account per person, and then income of 850 euros. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, if you're under the age of 65, private medical policy, and then the property, either proof of ownership of a property, and we would need we could apply for a land search for you, proving that you still own that. That land search needs to be within 3 months old, and or a rental contract. So that's basically it. And really, I'm afraid to say, it very much depends on who you deal with on the day and who deals with your application, and whether or not the financial criteria either you meet it or you don't. But that's why when we look at the applications, you can submit. You don't have to have a Spanish bank statement. You can have UK bank statements, but we are typically asking for the last 6 months of bank statements from UK and Spanish bank accounts. And what the authorities are starting to look at now is they want to see that you actually are living in Spain and are spending in Spain. So they want to see activity on your bank account. So they want to see that you've gone out to El Corte Inglés or Mercadona or the local petrol station. So just to prove that you are actually genuinely here.
Okay, good. Well, if anybody's got any more questions about residency, do pop them into the chat and we'll deal with those at the end. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Tim Govertz, who's the Associate Director at Blacktower. And Luthia is also here, who is an international financial advisor, and she's our Costa Women representative. So good afternoon to both of you.
Good afternoon.
Hi. How can people that live in Spain prepare financially for Brexit?
Lucia, shall I take that, or?
Yeah, go on. Go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of uncertainties, of course. So I think there's mainly a few areas where we've been assisting our clients over the past 12 months to prepare for Brexit. And To start with is the obvious one, currencies. A lot of people still have quite a large chunk of their assets in sterling. As we edge closer to the final day of this year, then we're seeing a lot. We could expect more volatility if it's edging towards a no deal or a hard Brexit, and it's generally assumed that the pound will suffer from that. And as Alex mentioned, the pound has gone up slightly today. So whenever there's a bit of good news or some more clarity, then it might go up again. So if you're spending in Euroland and you're living in Euroland, we would diversify away from sterling and to reduce that currency risk and have more exposure to euros. So within our clients' portfolios, we would typically have a 50-50% mix between sterling and euros, or even more towards euros if they have other assets in UK in sterling. Apart from that, it's also what Alex or Ignacio touched on. The passporting is very important. A lot of people that are living here still use their UK-based advisor or with UK banks. We've just seen that a lot of UK banks are now informing their clients that they cannot hold their accounts anymore after Brexit if they're non-UK residents. So those passporting rights into the EU will fall away or could fall away for a lot of institutions and for a lot of financial services companies. So a lot of clients are asking us if they still have UK specific products, for example, what to do with that. So we're reviewing those assets and make them EU compliant as such. Also, a lot of our clients have very specific Spanish products or Spanish compliant products, not products in Spain, but Spanish compliant. And Spanish compliant means that you're holding Spanish compliant funds in there. Now, those funds, investment funds, have a home as well, a jurisdiction. London being a very large financial center is one of the main jurisdictions for investment funds. Now, with Brexit looming and the UK possibly falling outside of the EU, those investment funds will also fall outside the EU and will, by definition, become non-EU compliant. So for clients holding Spanish compliant structures with Spanish compliant funds in there that are currently still UK based, the whole structure would become non-Spanish compliant if the UK would fall outside of the EU. So what we've been doing is changing those funds into EU-based funds without going too much into technicalities, but that would mainly be Luxembourg or Irish-based funds. And what we're seeing is that a lot of the big fund houses, such as Fidelity or BlackRock or the banks that have big funds like HSBC, etc., they all have large investment funds. And what they've been doing is they've been setting up satellite offices in Ireland and Luxembourg typically. And they're moving a lot of capital for their EU investors away from the UK towards Ireland, towards Luxembourg. So there's a big outflux of money going on. And that's what we've been doing with our clients as well, just to make sure that after Brexit, our clients' portfolios remain tax efficient, i.e. Spanish compliant here in Spain. Another big thing that we've been, a big area where we've been reviewing our clients' portfolios or clients' situation, but where we are getting a lot of requests as well, is in the area of pensions. Pensions fall under EU legislation at the moment as well, and are regulated by the EU and obviously within the UK as well, and fall under the free flow of capital rules within the EU. That means that you, as an EU resident, are allowed to take your pension outside of the UK if that were to be the best solution. Someone not living in the EU cannot do that unless he or she pays a 25% overseas transfer charge. Or if an EU resident transfers his or her pension to somewhere outside the EU, then that 25% applies as well. The UK cannot do that for an EU resident moving his or her pension to another EU jurisdiction because it would go against the free flow of capital rules. We expect that it's very likely that that 25% overseas transfer charge will apply after the 31st of December. So we're getting a lot of inquiries of people that say, look, I've got this SIP, for example, in the UK. What do I need to do? So at the moment, it's unclear if that 25% is going to apply. Bear in mind, that's only if you take the full pension outside of the UK. It doesn't apply to just taking an income from your pension. Okay? So that's one thing that's a worry for people holding pensions in the UK, the overseas transfer charge, but also from the providers, the pension providers, and there's big ones such as Prudential, such as Zurich, for example. They've been informing their clients that in some occasions that because they're non-UK resident, they need to move out and go somewhere else. And why is that? In the UK, when you take an income from your pension, there's something called flexi access drawdown, for example. And many providers will require you that when you start taking an income from your pension, that you take regulated advice. Now, for UK residents, UK advisors could still give you that advice, how to best take the income from your pensions. But after Brexit, those UK-based advisors will not be able to passport into the EU anymore. It's again those passporting rights that matter. So the providers are saying, look, you should take advice from someone in the jurisdiction where you are living. Spain, for example, Spanish-based regulated advisors. However, we cannot recognize that because it falls outside our scope. So you need to go somewhere else and move your pension to a solution that allows you to take your income in the most flexible way, flexi access drawdown based on non-UK based advice. So there's a number of areas where we've been getting a lot of requests, people that simply come to us after they've been informed that they cannot take the income as they wish from their pension anymore. Very similar to the banks informing their clients that they can't hold their accounts after Brexit anymore. So these are the main areas where we've been assisting many people at the moment.
Brilliant. Lucia, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, in regards to the advice that we are currently giving to clients. So as I said to you before, Ali, now is the time of the year when people just remember that they need to arrange everything and get prepared for the tax year and just to comply with all the regulations. I just encourage everybody just to get in touch if they like and then have a review with their financial situation. So it's nothing to lose. It's better to know what you need to do instead of receiving a letter from the authorities asking you to pay any tax that you didn't know. So just to be aware of what your obligations are.
Yeah, good advice. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to Sarah Hartley. Sarah is the Costa Women representative of Meridiano. Hi, Sarah.
Hi everybody.
So Sarah's company that she works for, Meridiano, offer funeral plans and funeral insurance. I think there's a lot of myths around funerals in Spain, Sarah. So tell us how they actually differ from other countries.
Okay, so culturally they're different. That's the first biggest difference that I can say. They offer a 24-hour vigil. The Spanish people offer a 24-hour vigil in the tanatorium, which is equivalent to our chapel of rest. Whereas we wouldn't sit with our deceased loved one for 24 hours, meeting with the family in that manner. The funeral is usually performed within a 24-hour period, and there's a lot of myths around that it has to be performed in that 24-hour period, and it doesn't. There's no legal requirement for it to be done in 24 hours. It's a cultural difference. It happens very quickly, and that is for one main reason, and that is that the body is not embalmed in Spain till day 6. In the UK, we die, we're embalmed, and we can stay in storage for 3-4 weeks, however long it takes for a funeral. In Spain, it's done very, very quickly, but that is the main reason why it's done very quickly. Equally, we are not buried, if we want a burial rather than a cremation, we're not buried in the ground in Spain, we're buried in the wall, which is very different. So I don't know if anyone's been to a Spanish cemetery, but we're buried in a wall 5 high. We have ladders to reach the top one if you want to put flowers for your loved one. you have a plaque, you can have the marble headstone and everything. It's very, very different. So they're the key differences between funerals here and there.
Okay. And what would the basic cost be of a funeral in Spain?
Depends on what you want. It's a bit like your wedding. You can have anything from the basic to the elaborate, but the starting price is usually around about €2,000, and it can go up and up and up to wherever you want, whatever facilities you want included in that. You know, you could have a horse-drawn carriage, or you could have just your ashes brought back after the ceremony. So it's very different. For repatriation, we work very closely with the airlines and the UK funeral directors, and that sort of comes in at around €6,000. So if you did die here and wanted repatriating back to the UK for a service and a funeral in the UK, you're looking in the region of around €6,000 to be repatriated, and that doesn't include the cost of the funeral in the UK. You then have your funeral director's fees and service to pay for in the UK. Okay.
And Meridiano offer both plans and funeral insurance.
We do.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say, how can you protect yourself and your family from unexpected costs using those different types of products?
Okay, so first of all is to be prepared, have the conversation, have things in place. So make your wishes known is the first thing. By having your wishes known, there's no unexpected costs. So we do a funeral insurance. A funeral insurance policy is equivalent to having house insurance or car insurance. It's the best comparison. You're paying it just in case you need it. It's a small monthly fee, and it's there in the event of. A funeral plan is that usually for people over the age of 65, 70, that you're paying your funeral up front. So you're paying for the whole cost of it. You're not leaving anything for the family member to deal with in the event of your death. It's all taken care of. And by having your wishes in place, you're not going to experience any extra costs.
Okay. And if I decided that I was going to move back to my home country, but I'd taken out a funeral plan, what would happen?
Okay, if you've got a funeral plan, so you've paid for your funeral up front, you get the whole of the policy back apart from an administration fee, which is around €300. But you get, so if your policy is valued at €3,800, you'd get €3,500 returned to you. And that is equal if you died in the UK and the family in the UK said, well, Mum's died here, we're going to keep her here and we'll do the funeral here. On production of a death certificate, you get a full refund in the same manner. So with a funeral plan, you don't lose any money on either event.
Okay, that's brilliant. So I'm now going to go over to the questions that are in the chat. So if you have got a question over something that you've heard this afternoon, please do pop it into the chat. So do Currencies Direct, so this is to Ignacio, have a preferential exchange rate? What would today's rate be?
We have a preferential exchange rate. What is the rate today? Well, depending on the amount. I mean, it's changing every second, but we've been around the 110. You know, we're always going to be around 1% of the what is the live rate, the interbank rate that we call. We are around 110. So we always are between that, you know, more or less, depending on the amount as well.
Okay, and you can, if you decide that you've got a certain amount of money that you want to buy a property for, say, Currencies Direct do offer you a service where they can hold your money until it reaches a certain exchange rate, haven't you?
Yeah. We set a limit order, correct? You know, you just you just tell us what the target is, and as soon as that hits, we call you. But also we have an automatic center that block that rate for you. So for property buyers, it's a fantastic service.
Yeah, good, thank you. Alex, somebody's got a green Residency card and they want to know if it's necessary to get the new TIE card.
So long as that green Residency card is current and in force and valid for the X amount of years, usually 5 years or permanent, and they don't need to change it over to the new TIE card. There's no obligation to do so. My advice would be to do so though. It's not an obligation, just repeat that, but I'd suggest changing your residency card for that good photographic card which you can use and walk around with freely and use for identification purposes. And when next year when we travel out of Spain, you'll have a photographic card rather than that kind of the green card or the green piece of paper, so it'll be easier to show at passport control.
Okay. Another question on residency. So you mentioned that assets need to be greater than 50,000. Does that include a property?
I think, but basically, if you've got assets, so if you become a Spanish tax resident, so you're living here for more than 6 months a year, the year after you have arrived in March, if you own assets overseas over the value of 50,000 euros, and that can be cash, property, any other assets in your name, then you've got to declare them in Spain, and that's called the Modelo 720.
Okay. And you mentioned 850 euros. Is that per month that somebody has to have as income? Yes.
Yeah. But again, what we look at when we were submitting the applications, we look at the kind of cocktail of finances. 6 months with an average statement for the last 6 months there, average statement of the UK, of the Spanish bank accounts, money in account, and if you own a property, that helps as well. So it's a kind of combination. But by and large, Ali, those are the figures. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's got an Irish passport, so they would still need to apply for residency, wouldn't they? But there's not, not so much of a rush because they're not affected by Brexit, are they?
But basically, again, if someone's got an EU passport, if they intend to spend more than 3 months in Spain in a calendar year, then they've got an obligation to become a Spanish resident. Again, more than 6 months, they become a Spanish tax resident. So if that person has been here for 3 months already, then they should apply. But it's very important when you're applying for residency to think about when you actually then maybe become a tax resident, because if you, for example, have sold a property, your main property in the UK or elsewhere, and you become a Spanish tax resident in the same year, you could be subject to paying capital gains tax in Spain on the sale of that UK asset. So, talk to people like, Tim and Lucia about planning your arrival in Spain on the tax side. And then obviously we'd be happy to talk to you about how to get the Spanish residency.
Okay. And not actually applying for your residency until after Brexit, what are likely to be the risks in doing that?
Well, basically, if someone's happy only spending 90 days in a 180-day period, then they can obviously do that, Ali. So next year they could come for up to 180 days, but at the moment they could spend 90 days and they'd have to leave and come back 90 days later. A lot of people we've spoken to own property, that doesn't fit into their lifestyle. They want to be able to come to Spain when they want to. So they're typically coming to Spain January, February, March, April, and then maybe not staying here for the summer, but then maybe going back and coming back September to December or September to October. So it just depends on people's lifestyle, how much time they want to spend in Spain and when. And if they don't want to be restricted to the 90 days and 180 day, I would suggest they apply for residency. If they can live with that, then there's no rush to do so.
Okay. The dreading exchange of driving licenses, which I know is there's a lot of problems getting appointments at the moment. One of the ladies is asking is, are there any plans for an extension to the exchange process?
No. I mean, basically, you've got to, if you're going to become a resident here as a British person, you've got to apply by the end of this year. There won't be any extensions. There won't be any, when we will definitely be leaving at the end of this year. So that's the end of the transition period. And as a British resident in Spain, then, try and get your driving license changed over and definitely apply for the residency.
If a husband and wife are applying together for residency, do they have to show individually 9,000 in assets and 8.5 each?
Yes, they do, yeah.
Okay. Can you stay in Spain for less than 6 months and then go back to the UK and then come back to Spain straight away? Or how long would you have to wait? So you'd have to wait the 180 days, wouldn't you?
so basically, Ali, we don't know exactly how the 90 days and 180-day period will work, but by generally looking at other countries, it's 90 days in and then out. Tim, I don't know, have you got any other comments on the 90 days from a tax point of view? But generally speaking, it will be 3 months on, 3 months out. And the UK and the UK, what's important to bear in mind is that the governments work on a reciprocal basis. So if the UK says anyone from the European Union coming into the UK needs a visa, then Spain will reciprocate. So if you've got a house here and you haven't got the residency card, if you want to come to Spain, you'd have to apply for that visa too. So if you can get residency, I'd certainly recommend you do that.
Yeah. Is the process for renewing your Spanish driving license simple, and how far before expiry should you start the process?
It's not simple. It is troublesome. Okay, and basically, Ali, we would strongly recommend that people do that as soon as possible, because it's very difficult to get appointments, and they're taking a long time to get, and they're few and far between.
Are lawyers and gestors able to get appointments more than individuals?
No. I mean, basically, if you know how to operate the system, then you can go on and apply for the appointments. The example I gave you in Barcelona, and we're finding this in other areas in Spain, you've got kind of agents going in there and block booking lots of appointments and then selling them on. So we've reported this to the authorities, but they're still allowing that to happen. So yeah, I mean, you can get appointments, but you've got to be, I applied for appointment. I'm going to change I renewed my residency when we moved the house a few years ago. I've got the small green card. I'm going to go for my TIE card. I went online about 3 weeks ago in the morning, 9 o'clock, and I managed to get an appointment in Marbella for in a couple of weeks' time. So there are appointments there to be had. It's just you've got to be on top of it and know how to manage the system.
Okay. One of the people has got a green residency A4 sheet that doesn't state permanente on it. Does she have to get a TIE card before the end of December 2020?
It'd be important to know when that was issued, because typically those green, I had an A4 to start off with, and then I renewed that for the smaller one, and then I've got permanent resident on my small green card now. And if you apply for the TIE, then that would be a permanent one as well. So if they want to send us an email for us to have a look at that A4 and come back to us, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, I'll put into the chat the email addresses for all the people that have been on this call as well, the experts. If you're staying for only 6 months, do you have to apply for a Spanish driving license?
That's a really good question, and the answer, I'd say, look, if you're moving to Spain and you're going to be here full time, more than 6 months, I change your driving license. But if you are just coming here on holiday and you're not a tax resident, then I'd say keep your UK license and then consider taking out an international driving license.
Okay. What's the online website you go to for the TIE and the renewing your Spanish driving license?
The Spanish driving license one is the DGT, so that's basically the DGT, and the TIE. It's a long. If you have a look on our website, getspanishResidency.com, have a look at the FAQs. The website is on there.
Okay. And then if you've got a green card that doesn't say Permanente on it, what are the requirements to get Permanente or the TIE?
Those are the requirements we talked about. So basically health cover in place, financial well-being, proof that you've got sufficient income to live on, health cover, property or rental contract, and then register on the padron.
But if they've got already a residency card of some sort, it just doesn't say Permanente on it. So it's the one for 5 years rather than the one for, because 10 years is the Permanente, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So in effect, they would go along to the immigration, the national police station, and they could renew that there. But again, that's an appointment online.
Yeah, okay. Question to Sarah, what about cremation? Does that exist in Spain? It's the same process. Sorry, your sound's gone a bit
Same
strange.
process. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Same process. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cremation in Spain. Yeah.
Okay.
All very legal and very regulated.
Okay. Good. Did anybody else in the have a question that they wanted to ask any of our experts before we wind up the chat?
Ali, can I just wanted to say
Yeah.
something on the funeral side. I mean,
Yeah.
sadly, you know, a friend passed away last week, and they died on the Friday, and that afternoon they were laid to rest in the chapel, as Sarah was talking about, and they were cremated the next day. And it's a kind of incredibly fast process, and it's kind of quite shocking, to be honest. So, you know, the UK, the English way or British way of kind of someone dies, then being, you know, going to the funeral home and then planning the funeral, and the funeral taking place 2 or 3 weeks later, allowing family and friends to come over and have a proper service. To me, you know, is for me that's the ideal way of dealing with it. The Spanish way, I just found it kind of really quite shocking, quite quick, and so I certainly recommend taking out a funeral plan or considering something like that, because as I said, the Spanish process was difficult.
Yeah,
it's quite brutal, isn't it, Alex? How quick it is and how sudden. I mean, you're affected by a distressing situation, and you're basically, the funeral directors have an obligation to come in and say, do you have an insurance? Do you have a plan? How are you going to pay for this? And they don't have to legally take the body away if you can't prove that you've got funds to pay, and it's an awful situation. We do talks all the time, and although I represent Meridiano, what I would say to anybody is just have the insurance, or have the funds, have it organized, so then you're not hit with you know the big difference between Spain and UK is, like I say, we're not embalmed in Spain, but you can be embalmed. It's different because it's the coroner that would do the embalming. Once you're embalmed, you can take all the time in the world. And what the Spanish don't do is give you that option. But as a liaison in between the Spanish and the English, I'm a nurse in my profession, and my trade and my specialism is in palliative care. So I've held people as they've died, and during the COVID, that's been very difficult of how the regulations are. You know, people haven't been able to see their loved ones, they haven't been able to say goodbye. I did one service where we stood in the garage door of the funeral home, and we had to say our goodbyes there. You know, I'd helped this gentleman whilst he died, and that was all we could do. We weren't able to do anything else. So 3 people allowed. The lady wasn't, the poor wife wasn't allowed anybody to be there with her, supporting her. So the COVID has been very, very difficult. How the pandemic has affected us as being able to provide a service.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, and Ali, one of the things we've been talking about, you know, to lots of British people, you know, obviously get the residency, but also, you know, have something like a funeral plan in place, get your finances in order using a currency company, because you can save money, do that. Talk to financial advisors, because you could definitely save money, or look at, you know, your existing portfolio. And the other thing is, you know, have you got a Spanish will? If you've got an asset in Spain, if you've got assets in Spain, then we'd strongly recommend having a Spanish will. Have a UK will as well. If you've got UK assets, a Spanish will for Spanish assets, and make sure that they work together. So again, you know, if you have a look at our website, getspanishResidency.com, we've also got another website there called yourspanishwill.com. Log on to that. There's lots of FAQs there, and that it's important. You know, there lots of times in a Spanish will, we could insert, you know, how you want to be, you know, how you want to go, you know, whether you want to be cremated or buried,
what your wishes are.
What your wishes are,
yeah.
So yeah,
Sorry
important to kind of plan for the future, but live for today.
Be prepared. Be here now. But I've got tattooed on me. Be here now. Live for today. Alex, sorry for your loss.
Alex a question, please?
Yeah, sure.
Alex, as you know, I've 2 of my boys there in the UK. Both of them, they have British passport. We never changed it because we thought it was the point. You know, we are in Europe, and we never did. The oldest one, it looks like he's going to stay there. It's because he's got an English girlfriend, and I think he's going to stay there. He's working right now. The second one is studying, and probably he's going to come back. But he's got a British passport. Do I have to do anything?
Yeah, I mean, did they have DNIs?
No. They have NIE.
Yeah. So I'd recommend, but basically, Ignacio, Spain and the UK don't allow dual nationality.
Yeah,
so you either have British nationality or you have Spanish nationality. And if you took out Spanish nationality, you have to renounce your British nationality. So I would strongly recommend that they, if they're coming back to Spain, that they apply for residency here. Yeah. But because you're Spanish though, and you've got a Spanish passport, and they are dependents and family members, they would be able to come back to Spain and obtain a residency card as a family member of a European Union resident.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Reagrupación familiar.
Agrupación familiar, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you everybody for your useful advice. What I've done is I've put in the chat everybody that one of the experts that we've had on the call this afternoon, I've put all of their contact details into the chat. So if you just scroll up a bit, Ignacio's was there, but he's just added some more information to his as well, including his phone number. So if you want to contact any of them directly, you're very welcome to. Just copy and paste them into your onto your computer. If you don't get the chance to download them, then just contact me and I will send them to you. Well, thank you very much to our experts this afternoon. Been very useful information. I think it's quite confusing for a lot of people as to what the different parts of the residency are and how it all works. So hopefully that's helped answer some questions. And Alex has actually got another webinar tomorrow afternoon. Alex, do you just want to mention that one?
Yeah, so basically anyone who is interested in applying to become a Spanish resident, tomorrow at 3:30, we are arranging a seminar to talk about the residency process. You can, if you go onto the website, legalservicesinspain.com, and the news section, the Zoom contact details are there, and Ali is kindly hosting that seminar for us. So legalservicesinspain.com, go into the news section, and the Zoom contact details and login details are there.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you everybody, and hope to see you all soon.